Now let me show you how we can create a graph and the table using Google Sheets. Okay, and I first want you to go to your Drive. So in your Drive, you need to create a folder if you don't have already. And some of you, I did this with some of you in class, but if you don't already have a folder called Pre-Algebra 7 or Math or My Favorite Class Ever or whatever, then you need to click New, click on Folder and create one. You can call it 7th grade Math, for example. That way next year you don't confuse it. And then click Create. Once you do that, we'll open it up. I want you to create another folder inside of it called Unit 3 Ratios and Proportional Relationships. So once inside, it should say whatever you called it up here. You're going to click on New, Folder again, and this time call it Unit 3 Ratios and Proportional Relationships. Okay, just like this one. Once you do that, it should be an empty folder. And so you're going to click New. You're going to click Google Sheets. That way it's going to make a new file in this folder. And it always starts out as untitled. And the first thing we want to do is change that. So I'm going to call it Proportionality Project. That. Now, once it's saved, you can see this folder icon. If I click on it, it'll show me that it's in this folder, Unit 3 Ratios and Proportional Relationships. If it's not, then you can move it to that folder, just so you can make sure that everything is organized. And the reason we're doing this is so that we don't lose it. Everything for this project is in the same folder. Now, down here, you'll see this says Sheet 1. And I'm going to use the examples I used in the investigation we did. So the first pair of quantities, for example, for me, is the books and the height of the book stack. So height, I'm going to call it height of book stack. Okay? And let me make a new one, so sheet 2, and the second pair for me would be temperature, so I'm going to compare Fahrenheit and Celsius, temperature, and then the third one I'll say was like heartbeats. Okay, so in this one I'm measuring two quantities. The first one is the number of books. The second one is the height of the book stack. Height of book stack. Now, you'll notice that this word went over the column. If you just double click between column B and C, it automatically resizes. So it was here, and then I double clicked, and it automatically resized. I'll do the same for this one. And I have to mention what units I'm using. So for number of books, it's just a number of books. So I don't like the units are just books. But for height of book stack, I'm using centimeters. So I'm going to include that in my title, in my table title. Then, now I can start filling in my data. So I would say 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh. And I'm going to put 0 as well. So let's do that again. And it's very important to put the 0 because one of the requirements for a proportional relationship is that when one quantity is 0, the other has to be 0. So I'll put 10 because we need at least 10. This is actually 11 because if you include the 0. But this is a nice round number. And then I'll make the measurements. So I'll make my measurements, let's say... Okay, so I have all my data. And just so I can make it look nicer, I'm going to format it here. So I'm going to click Format. I'm going to click Alternating Colors. I'm going to choose green here, just so it looks like a nice table. Now, what I need to do is two things. The first, I already put them in a table, which is fine. But I need to now insert a chart. So I'm going to click Insert Chart and put them on a scatter chart. If it should say no data. If it doesn't, that's fine. If it already has your data populated, that's fine as well. But you have to make sure of a few things. First of all, in the right here, where it says chart, it says Setup and Customize, make sure you're on Setup. Make sure that the chart type is a scatter chart. So if you open it up, this is line, area, column, bar. And then if we scroll down, you should see scatter. Okay. Then where it says data range, you're going to click on this box and highlight your whole table, including the title. So highlight your whole table, including the title. A1 to B12. I'll click OK. In the bottom here, it says use row 1 as headers. So this is row 1. And you can see row 1 has the titles of each quantity. And so I'm going to make sure that this is checked and set up. So use row 1 as headers. Okay. So we're good. We have our scatter chart, our scatter chart. Nothing else needs to be done here. What we need to do next is click on Customize. And this is important. We need to start adding titles. And so where it says Chart and Axis Titles, you need to give it a chart title. So this is height of Bookstack. And you'll see that it shows up right away. But then each axis needs a title as well. The horizontal axis is the one down here, and that is just the number of books. So if I put that in, it should show up here. So this is 0 books, 1 books, 1 book, 2 books, and so on. Next is the vertical axis, this one, and this is the height of Bookstack. Again, I have to put the units in centimeters. Putting the units is very important. If the units down here were something other than books, then I would put it. And so we have our chart here, but it's kind of hard to read. If we look at the point where we have 5 books, for example, we can go to this point, but it's hard to tell where it is exactly between 10 and 20. And so we can go down to this where it says grid lines and ticks. And right now we're on the vertical axis, and next to the step value for the major step, right now it's set at 10, so if I put 10 here, nothing changes, but I can make it 5, and so you'll see that there's an extra, instead of going 0, 10, 20, it's going 0, 5, 15. So that makes it better. If you feel, and it depends on your numbers. If you need to put more accurate, like smaller numbers makes it easier to read. But sometimes when it's too small, then it gets a bit crowded like this. So I'm going to keep mine at 3. And that's that. Of course, if you want to do this for the horizontal axis, then you need to click here, horizontal axis, and I'm actually going to make this 1. That way every book has its own line. Okay, so this is much easier to read now. I can easily tell that 5 goes to 15. So 5 books are 15 centimeters high. All right, so we made the chart. Now we need to move it to Google Docs, because in the final report for this project is going to be on Google Docs. And so I'm going to click download chart here, and I'm going to download it as a PNG. So I'm going to click download PNG image, and it's downloaded here. So now once we go to the Google Doc for our report, we can just use that image. And let me open it to show you what it looks like here. Okay, so again, we're picking 3 quantities. One of them has to be proportional, and they need to be approved. So on the question on Google Classroom, list the 3 pairs, and I have to tell you that it's approved before you start measuring. And we want to ask ourselves, do those 2 quantities have an effect on each other? And we can conduct a mini test just to see if that's true or not. Okay, please read the rubric very carefully, and let me know if you have any questions or concerns. All right, good luck, and I'll see you at some point.